Hey guys, final war of the season and final war with NewN here. I'm leaving to go back to SSX. School's getting very busy for the next 5 months or so. Um, so yeah, I just don't want to be pushing for podium during that time, really. At least not with the, expectation of podium, obviously. I'd be excited if there was a chance at getting podium, but, I don't want that pressure and expectation. And yeah, anyway. So yeah, I think I had 10 fights to finish the season this war. And we ended up getting a super donut, which was really awesome. Very nice send off to my final war here, and it clinched us top 10 in Masters, which was awesome. We had a really, really rough season. Um, Full disclaimer, I was not leaving because of the rough season at all. My mind was up, I think, before we had gotten to a point where we couldn't have gotten top 3 anymore. I think we were still pushing for top 3 when I made the decision. So yeah, it wasn't because of how rough the season was or anything like that. Just life gets in the way sometimes. So yeah, I'm gonna miss the guys at NewN, but yeah, just gotta hopefully be less stressed out for a little bit. And yeah, hopefully that's, not necessarily a break. SX is definitely still pushing, so it's not necessarily a break, but just a little bit less stressful. Hopefully that should be good for me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that next season. The next tactic looks very Doom friendly, so I'm sure I'll be posting a bunch of Doom videos. So that'll be fun. And I took Reed and Diablo to R4 Sig 200 for next season with Subdue. So those two, I'm sure we'll get a lot of use. And yeah. Anyway, I was just talking about that during these fights because these fights aren't particularly interesting. You guys, Valk is nothing, and you've seen that Hulkling fight a million times by now, I'm sure. And yeah, Chavez next up. This is Chavez can always be tricky because Chavez is really really annoying. But we do have a Wags pre-fight this time. This fight with a Wags pre-fight, completely safe. Without a Wags pre-fight, I'd still say it's completely safe, but you definitely need someone who's very comfortable fighting Chavez taking it. I do think Chavez is mostly a comfort thing rather than an AI thing. Bad AI can definitely play into it, but I think, most of the deaths I've seen due to Chavez are mostly a comfort thing. So I think if you can get really good at fighting Chavez, or, have a few people that are very good at fighting Chavez in your battle group, that can help out, a whole lot. And just make her into a bit of a non-issue, uh, which is definitely very hard just because of how complicated everything in her kit can make fights, because there is just a whole lot going on, but, once you get good at managing it, you can just do your thing with her, and yeah, goes down very smoothly. The Wags pre-fight helped a lot there. And next up, we have Nick Fury versus Spot on 23. This fight, just normal Nick versus Spot fight, but there is the root to worry about, but there's also power focus too. So on one hand, it becomes a little bit easier because we don't actively have to bait specials. On the other hand, we are probably going to have to dex out a root when he goes untouchable. My hope was that he would only go untouchable the one time, so I wouldn't have to get rooted multiple times. And, I was like, okay, if we can kill it in the one untouchable, I'll definitely get out with my first life still there. I see that, he took this long to get untouchable, so at this point, I'm very happy about this. Fight's going very well. We get rooted here. Thankfully, the root happened during the middle of the special, which ate up most of the root timer. And yeah, that was very fortunate. Made it very easy to just X out for root there. And the fight is over. Yeah, pretty good fight there. And then next up, we have a 25 Aarkus with Doom. And my goal was for after my L3 to have Aarkus be at like 2.5 bars of power so we could you know, do our L3 without getting a bunch of power sting debuffs on us, and then just glancing everything. I wasn't worried about the actual power sting damage because that doesn't really matter. My worry is just purely about them being a debuff, and that glancing can get really annoying if a bunch starts stacking up. And yeah, so my goal is to just hopefully keep the power gains low. I don't want too much to stack up before my L3 and start causing issues before then. But I'm like, okay, I'm at the perfect position at this point. So I just start backing up, getting ready to throw my L3. And we do this, and at this point, I was like, okay, if this goes as planned, I have won the fight right now. And as you'll see, it did go exactly as I was thinking it would go. And yeah, that was very nice. You see, we keep him above 2 bars, below 3 bars the entire time, and then we just end the fight out right there. Yeah, very smooth fight. I'm really happy with how that went. Yeah. Next up, we have an Annihilus on 28. Return policy. Very simple fight, but it's very punishing if you eat an L3 without an invuln. So, of course, I'm popping an invuln. Really the only worry in this fight. I find Annihilus with Doom very easy to fight just because Mystic Dispersion. You know, normally the tricky part is the start, getting the rod down, and then after you get the rod down, everything's easy. So using Mystic Dispersion from all the Unstoppables will allow us to just start with an L1. And the other thing about not doing any hits here is so he doesn't have power when I do that L1, so return policy doesn't give him a bunch of power. And that'll mean it's just completely safe to do that L1. I don't have to worry about, eating an L3 to start the fight or anything. And doing this just makes the fight a lot simpler. Yeah, as you can see, we're getting ready to throw this L1 right here. Goes well, nullify 3 buffs. And then, yeah, go for L3 cycle, and at this point, we've won the fight. So yeah, as you can see, a very simple fight, just one that always, gives me the tingles in my spine just because, I know how quickly you can die to that fight. But it's definitely one that you should not ever die to. Just one that, is scary. It's kind of like fighting, kind of like fighting Mole Man or something, where if you make the wrong mistake, you're just done. Yeah. Next up, we have a Quicksilver, 38. We're taking this with Nick Fury. Very easy fight with Nick Fury. I'm very good at fighting, texting the L1s, so we're ideally going to be baiting L1s. And, yeah, the prowess is from blocking specials, and that's why he's placed here, because people aren't good with Quicksilver's animations. I've fought him a whole bunch at this point, so I've gotten fairly comfortable with his animations. Not like super comfortable. He still has really wonky animations. I don't think anybody will ever be truly comfortable with fighting Quicksilver's animations, but I'm about as comfortable as anyone could be. So, yeah. Definitely a fight I feel perfectly confident taking. So yeah, and the fight's just over here. So only had to dex the 101, and even if you eat that L1, no big deal. And next up, we just have a long shot, 39, pretty easy fight. I don't have to worry about losing my first life here, because it's my last Nick Fury fight. And yeah, basically, just gonna try and nuke it down. You know, if we can avoid losing our first life, that would be great, just to, less risk. But if we have to go to our second life, that's perfectly fine too. Just whatever lets us be in a better position in the fight. If I would have gotten cornered, if I would lose my, if I would have to, push him to an L2 to avoid like getting cornered or something, I'd definitely push to an L2. But other than that, try and at least be cautious with it. Here I mess up a little bit, and this gives nullifying good karma, so here he can do that. And here I don't play as good with controlling AI as I should, but now we're baiting heavies, and that avoids the special 2 being thrown, and it worked. And we bait the L2 without Pure of Heart, and yeah, he played along very nicely there. Probably still would solo if I went to second life there, but long shot definitely helped me make things easier for myself. So yeah, that's nice. Here, I should not have done the medium. I should have just done the white and then the L1, and then that would have let the white bleeds tick. As you can see here, he could have thrown an L3. Still not at all risky, but just something I should have done. And yeah, next up, King Groot 50. Very easy fight with Doom. We're going to go for an L3 cycle and try and get off as many L2s during the Fury as we can. Hopefully use Mystic Dispersion to our advantage. And hopefully just nuke most of the fight down with those Fury L2s. And then just, if whatever is left, we just finish off with normal L2s, L1s, whatever. Yeah. Doom's definitely the best option for this. It's really simple fight with Doom. The glancing global really does not matter all that much here. And the glancing global is the reason why I'm doing the L3 rotation. Normally, it's a little bit quicker to rotate L1s and L2s than doing this L3 rotation. But due to glancing, doing this will mean there's less chance of him throwing a special. And the glancing can slow down the fight a little bit. So, doing the L3 rotation, it's probably a little bit quicker on this fight. But it doesn't really matter. If you want to do the L1, L2 rotation, I'm sure that's perfectly fine as well. I went for the L2 rotation, and that worked perfectly. So, just whatever you want to do, really. Don't think it matters all that much. Yeah, here we're in a good position to get to another L2. Just gotta get another combo off, and thankfully he plays along. So yeah, I get a 2 Fury, L2. I get 2 L2s during my Fury, I mean. And yeah, that was very clean. And here, I should have thrown a heavy to stagger these so we could actually get incinerates. But I messed up, and that made the fight a little bit slower. The fight would just be over right now if I did that. But I made a little bit of a mistake, and it is perfectly fine. He's have 5% left. I'm not at all worried. We're just gonna, do a combo, do an L1. Fight will be over. And yeah, there we go. And now we have a Terrax on 53 with Diablo. You can get the armor break immunity, you get the poisons for stun reflection. You really just gotta worry about keeping the spells up. If you don't keep the spells up and glancing gets in a bad position, things can kind of snowball here. It is very easy to keep the spells up, though. It's definitely not a hard thing to do. It's just, if you mess it up, things can snowball. So it's just something to watch out for. And it's basically just what I'm saying with this is you just want to play pretty aggressive. Not like, over aggressive or anything. You don't have to, do intercepts or anything. You just don't want to play super passive. You want to play like aggressive but smart aggressive. Aggressive when it means you keep your spells up, basically. Because keeping your spells up really is the trick here, especially when it is during Rockfield. And yeah, here we're in a little bit of a bad position. But it's perfectly fine because we're about to get to our L2. And that means we shrug all those arm breaks, we get our L2 off, do a bunch of damage, and the fight is over. So yeah, now season rewards. I'm gonna put these at the end of the video. So as you can see, we got top 10 in Masters, 10th spot. And yeah, we're going skill nexuses all the way. For Blade, I just want Blade. And yeah, for T5, you see, I'm just kind of grabbing whatever. Didn't really have any plan for this. Just grabbing what made sense at the time. And yeah. Now we're gonna open those skill nexuses, and yeah. So first up, I get Blade, and that's awesome. And yeah, that will be all for this war video. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, Sonia Donna, OJ Highline, and Mega. Oh yeah, and Valk, but I don't really care about her. Yeah. Take care, guys.